So I'm going to try and do a segment that I'm going to call. First of all, can anybody hear me? I'm using a new mic. Can you? But is it like muffled, or is it weird in any way, or does it sound normal? You're all good. 10-4, good buddy. Y'all got some smokies down on the. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a segment, and hopefully we get more people in here, and Jackson stops walking around giving the tippy tappies. But I'm going to call it rapid fire conspiracies, or just random conspiracy talk. And MCK, you've suggested the Georgia Guidestones twice already. So, of course, the FBI is watching me. TGG, they're watching everybody. It's just that I'm not all that interesting. I'm just saying stuff that everybody already knows. But anyway, okay, Georgia Guidestones, let's go. I'm sure they have some sort of symbolic and mythical, mythical is probably the wrong word, spiritual, paranormal use in the world. I don't know what it is. I don't know what any of the monoliths are supposed to do or not do, but I do know that the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed by either a dude in a Camry or lightning. I guess we'll never know. The world may never know what actually happened to the Georgia Guidestones. It appeared to be in some sort of explosive device by a guy in a gray car. But some people also say that it was lightning, that it has to do with, population control. I don't know, man. Also probably happened on somebody's birthday, or like the moon was a certain shape that day. I don't know. I don't know much about like the monoliths. I know where they are. I know like the folklore around them vaguely, but it's not one of my big concerns. I think it's interesting that there are monoliths and like pyramids and structures and statues underneath the ocean where there should not be. That's evidence of a polar shift or a continental divide or a massive cataclysmic event that most likely wiped out humanity at the peak of its technological era. I'm still stuck on the DeLorean, too many coincidences. Yeah, the DeLorean might not be all that interesting. First of all, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the article I was referencing about the DeLorean being at the golf event at Bedminster, Trump's golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey, was from 2023. It wasn't from 2024. But I did hear or have a comment from somebody that lives in that area, and they saw that car again. So maybe it's just something that is like a local Back to the Future enthusiast or DeLorean enthusiast that made a replica of the time machine, made and takes to that event because it's the property that the creator used to own. It still doesn't make sense. It's dumb. Like, we gotta keep bringing like new Fords or old Ford, like Henry Ford's house or something. It's dumb. They probably do that though. I'm sure there is a Model T at Henry Ford's house. Like, I'm pretty sure of that. So maybe I'm just dumb. But your husband knows the owner. Hold on. Going forward, 1-1. You say, my husband knows the owner. Your husband knows the owner of that particular DeLorean time machine replica, Back to the Future replica, or he knows a owner of a DeLorean. A owner of a DeLorean. Okay. So not that particular DeLorean time machine or replica of a time machine. But it is weird. Like, I never really looked into that property until April of this year when we had that 4.8 magnitude earthquake, which earthquake also correlates with sound and resonance and vibration and all sorts of that temporal nonsense that sometimes time travel causes big earthquakes. I don't know. Like, that's a theory. There's something, some people put science words around it, but it's interesting that the epicenter was very close to the golf course that Trump owns, that there was a time machine at. Just saying, it's just interesting. It's an interesting coincidence. I think I saw the beginning. You said, did you see my video about the digital picture frames? Beach Boy. I remember seeing like at least the beginning of a video of the digital picture frames. I don't remember why, but I remember there's a fly in here. I remember I did see it. Thank you. What was the big hoo-ha about that? The digital picture frames. I remember I got one for my mom, and she only put one photo on it. She didn't know how to work it. Oh, okay. That they came out in 2007. That is neat. I don't know, but why are they back all of a sudden? I don't know why they're back. Maybe Overstock.com like held on to a bunch of them and then found them in a shed somewhere, a time travel shed, and then just put them all like for sale at like Walmart and Target, and dumb people are buying them again when they got the picture right on their phone. Like, a digital picture frame's a waste of time. Just put a laptop in the corner of the room and have it cycle through pictures when it's in sleep mode, or just do the same thing with your TV. Why spend $18 on an 8x10 picture frame with shitty pixelation with 8 photos of days that were better than just today? I don't know. Time travel or time viewer? I believe that there is the possibility of both. I think that there are more time viewers that have something like a chronovisor or a looking glass that can see down either their current timeline or an adjacent timeline. Kind of, I liken it to Doctor Strange in the Marvel universe. Like, he can see all of the outcomes of their actions, like what they can do. So you can maybe not make that mistake, I guess. Have you seen the documentary movie Antarctica? Alien Secrets Beneath the Ice? I'm sure I have. I watch them all. I don't know. I've never been there. Makes for a fun story. As in Deja Vu Denzel Washington movie. Yes, that is on the wall right there. They were using a device kind of like a looking glass that, with enough power, they were able to send human tissue through. Curious as to what became of the Shed Time Traveler, or Master Shedder, or the Shedler on the Roof is the one I like. The Time Shedler, I am not putting a whole lot of stock in. I already made that video with the bone reader. Stock, get a bone stock. Anyway, at first, like, I should have gone with my first instinct, was that it was nothing. I'm not saying Alec, the owner of the house, doctored the video. I am saying that there are a few glitches within the time stamps of that video. Like, it was either buffering or loading or switching, whatever, doing whatever it does, and it glitches at certain points. So there could have been a point where the younger gentleman came out of the shed and went around the back of the shed from the area that the older gentleman came from. Now, we don't, like, it kind of is glitchy when the older gentleman shows up, and it looks like he is coming from inside the shed when he most likely is moving the door because he came through an opening in the fence between the yards, and he's like moving the door so it looks like he's coming out, but he's actually just going by the shed. First gentleman, when Alec went around to the neighborhood, the mechanic did not know the young gentleman, but they said immediately, that guy is trespassed from our store, which means he either stole or did something untoward that they did not want associated with their business. So he is trespassed from that property, meaning he can't come back. that is a telltale sign of somebody that has unscrupulous character. Probably a young man that was going through that yard looking for something to steal or looking for somewhere to place a dead drop for somebody to come pick up. The older gentleman walking through the yard when Alec went to the mechanic, or the gas station that has like a little garage attached to it, the mechanic in the garage did recognize the older gentleman as somebody that he has seen before trying to sell some items to him, but could not remember what those items were. And then he tried to buy items from people in a car, is what I recall the mechanic saying, which it's Florida. I think the Shed guy was going for views because now his page is all conspiracy content. That is my fault. I am sorry for what I turned Alec into, but when I hopped on the Time Shedler conspiracy bandwagon, that original video had like 80,000 views. And then I hopped on board and was like, hey, everybody, look over here. And then I contacted Alec just by messaging him, and we were talking, and he's like, I'm like, yo, where is this house? Where's your property that you own? Because it's a Airbnb. And he's like, I really don't want to put all that information out there. And I'm like, look, bud, you got to capitalize. You got to strike while the iron's hot, man. Take every bit of publicity you can get. And he took that to heart. He is capitalizing on every single angle and opportunity, and God bless him, he's trying. He's got a bunch of followers now, and that video has like, what, 30 million views now? Like, he's that little Time Shedler thing went pretty much skyrocketed him. But not that I don't like him. I'm sure he's a fine gentleman. Real estate tycoon, if you will. But I don't know. He went a little overboard. He went a lot further than I was willing to go. As soon as he posted the video about the, with him going around the neighborhood asking for information on these guys, and he got the information, he still had like a psychic and a priest and like a guy with an EMF reader come out. Like he capitalized. Like he did everything he could to get those clicks. Like it does become a drug a little bit. Like when you thank you. When you start getting clicks and you start getting interactions, like you're like, hey, this feels kind of good, or this is kind of fun, or whatever. Then you're like, I want to do that again, and he just really went for it. I don't know. I didn't watch it. I don't know what any of the readings or anything picked up, because as soon as I saw the psychic with, I'm not saying that paranormal or spiritual stuff is not worth pursuing or has no value or anything like that. It's just that I think the little rock on a string that you ask it questions to, and it does a little swirl, I don't think that's very reliable. My opinion. I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I know a lot of my followers really dig that kind of stuff. That's just not me. Like it's just a rock on a string that you're holding. Like, is it gonna be hot today? Yeah. Like it's the dumbest thing I've ever. Whatever. Tarot cards, kind of interesting. Still, I feel there's a lot of human influence and agenda and input on those things. I think it would be very, very, very unlikely that you get an actual spirit guide and or angel or whatever guiding your little rock. Shamans, the only shaman I like is the QAnon shaman. He is awesome. Like, I respect that guy. He spent did he spend 3 years? Is he still in prison for walking into a building when he was asked to come in? Is he still in prison for that? He's out. Okay, so he's finally out, but he was at least in there for 3 years. I have a picture on my phone of my workstation, but I had 3 computer monitors set up, all with multiple live streams from different live streamers at that event, and then I had 2 different TVs that were watching. I had one on Fox News and one on CNN. The mainstream media was not showing the actual events that were taking place. 100%, I will die on that hill. The mainstream media whitewashed, lied, fabricated, did everything that they could to make that day look like something it was not. I watched it from 7:30 in the morning until about 1 o'clock in the next morning. And the funny thing is, I almost went to that event. Yeah, I had that day off. It was a Tuesday. It was my day off. DC is about 2-ish hours away from where I was at the time. But I was getting so many messages that were obvious setups. Like, I don't know, you just get these messages. Maybe you don't. I do. I get messages every once in a while that are a little bit cryptic and a little bit inciting, and just feel like this is not a real follower. This is somebody that works for the Alphabet Boys, and they're trying to, sway me a certain way or figure out something. But I got a bunch of those messages like, "You got to be there with us, brother. We're taking back the country, brother." And I'm like, how? No one has ever heard of this obscure election law go around that the vice president can possibly overturn some of the but what is it, some of the votes for whatever electoral college votes, like overrule those votes. Why was it that day? What else was going on? Who was there? Who wasn't there? And why when I know in Pennsylvania, in my fucking cabin, I know that there's people inciting bad stuff. When I know that stuff, why would Nancy Pelosi turn down the troops that Trump offered? The day before, it was like a Monday, he offered additional troops for security. She turned it down for whatever reason. And her daughter, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, recently outed her in some documentary or TV thing where they were going over that event. And Nancy Pelosi said that she takes full responsibility for the events that happened on January 6th because she had turned down the additional help that Trump had offered. Now, in the public light, she is, of course, 100% denying that and going the opposite way, that it's an insurrection. That's the dumbest thing you could have called that. It was such a staged event. It was making my blood boil by 8:45. I was only watching it for about an hour, and there was obvious Antifa tactics being used on the steps and around the side of the Capitol building. And what I mean by Antifa tactics is they do have a style of attacking, and how they do it is somewhat in waves. And they do have lieutenants, they do have captains, and they do have like privates or corporals. They do have a military structure to them. And you can tell where people are by where the umbrellas are, because they color code their helmets as to who's doing what. And they were attacking before Trump even made his speech or talk. They were viciously attacking the riot police that were at the Capitol. There was at least 2 rows of riot police with full riot gear and fencing, like the metal, like I don't know what do you call them, barricades, like the thing you put your bike on and you chain your bike to. they were there. And then Trump made the statement, now we're going to march peacefully and whatever and patriotically and make our voices heard. As soon as he said that, nobody had left the rally. Those riot police were dismissed, and I have the video. I have the video that I screen recorded of them walking onto a bus while people were surging the building. Bike rack. God damn it. Thank you. Such an easy word. Why is my brain shut off like that? And then they were only left with the Capitol Police, who we all know waited about 10, maybe 15 minutes, but before they, removed the bike racks and barricades and unlocked the doors and allowed people to come in. There were multiple groups that were there to make trouble. I'm not going to minimize that. There were multiple groups that were there to make trouble. The Proud Boys were not one of them. The Proud Boys, I don't know what you would call him. I can't remember his name at this point, but the leader of the Proud Boys had been kicked out of DC the night before January 6th, January 5th for, I think he took somebody's flag or ripped a flag or did something that they said was an aggressive thing. Oh, thank you. I got a hat. But they said he was being bad, and they said, you better leave town, Buster. And then he left. I'm not going to say there were none, but there wasn't a large presence of Proud Boys there. And then when there's a riot and people are already emotional, and we had just been through a year that didn't make sense and nobody knows what's going on, like a lot of people did let their emotions get the best of them and wanted to, rage against the machine, even though Rage Against the Machine is a hypocrite. I'm against the establishment. Can't come to my show unless you're jib-jabbed. So yeah, there were bad guys that went up on the scaffolding. There were bad guys that were attacking the Capitol Police mildly. I'm going to say mildly compared to all of the other riots I had seen that year. And then there was construction on the Capitol building for some reason, and they were cutting through tarps with knives and going in that way, but it was like a blocked off construction area. But I did see the group of guys. There was about a 6-man team of what I'm going to refer to as operators, run in, masks, goggles, gear, no visible firearms, but they run in, go exactly to wherever they needed to go, people's offices, grab electronics and whatever, and then try and work their way through the crowd down the steps. And a couple people put them up against the wall, or started to put them up against the wall, thinking that they were doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Or I don't know. Nobody knew who the good guys were or who the bad guys were. It was pretty much just a melee, and then a bunch of old people walking around like, I don't know what day it is. But they said to the insurrectors that they're like, what did they say? They said something like, we're not here to be Antifa. And then they just, they both had each other by the lapels, and then they let each other go, and they moved. They moved like operators, is what I'm going to say. They moved pretty smoothly and knew where they were going. I think that was a good way to get a lot of classified information. It's also interesting that on that day, I can't remember who handed it to him, but Pence leaned over and shook somebody's hand from that little, I don't know, podium. And when he pulled his hand away, there was a coin in it. And he just kind of went and hid the coin. You can't really make out what the coin is, but it does appear to be the same coin that Biden recently really smoothly, passed to somebody. You would think with Hunter having the experience that he has, I mean, he would know, his dad would know how to do like a hand-to-hand without making it obvious, but I don't know. And then I I don't know if I saw Ashley. Was it Ashley Babbitt? Is that her name? But that makes me sick because she was following the crowd. She did kind of take a little bit of a side route and then smash a window on a door that was barricaded. And there was he a Capitol Guard police officer, or was he Secret Service for somebody? At the time, I assumed he was Secret Service for somebody because the Secret Service was in the chambers aiming all of their firearms at the entry door. Which I don't know what a SIG 226 is going to do to like 3,000 people. I guess if you get the first one, second one's not going to really try all that hard. But be a case in point, Ashley Babbitt. But she did smash through into somewhere she wasn't supposed to be going. She was technically a threat, but as soon as she hits the ground, she is not on the ground for more than 8 seconds. I counted. She is not on the ground for more than 8 seconds before a tactical team has surrounded her, secured her, and is in the process of removing her. If there was a tactical team that close, why was there a need for deadly force? I think somebody got an itchy trigger finger. But that's a hard decision to make. Like, you're given a task to protect this building. Now your building's under attack, even though it's an odd situation. What attack isn't odd? Like, when isn't it weird? Like, I don't know. Like, you just gotta. Hey, it's better to be carried by, or it's better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6, I guess. Although he didn't even go to civil court for that. Interesting. The FBI should be held accountable for a great many things. Mainly, all of the terrorist acts in the last 60 years are the total fault of not just the FBI, but all of the alphabet agencies. If they all worked together towards a common goal, which would be to protect America and American interests and its citizens, we wouldn't have the problems that we are experiencing. We've got this agency that's not supposed to be operating within our borders, doing clandestine operations in other sovereign nations, because that's what those other sovereign nations are doing to us. But this secretive alphabet agency is responsible for flooding our inner cities with drugs and guns. 100%, admit to it. Are responsible for poisoning, torturing, killing, and wrongfully imprisoning, kidnapping, terrorizing American citizens within its borders without congressional knowledge. That agency should be disbanded immediately, and a lot of them should be base military tribunals. That's what I'll say about that. The FBI, however, is a federal bureau of investigation that somehow got so bored that they decided to create their own situations to investigate, like the first World Trade Center bombing. That was planned, orchestrated, funded, armed, and executed by that agency. Then let's talk about the ATF. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Got word that a man that lived off-grid, didn't like paying taxes, and had a distrust and a dislike for the federal government, found out that he sold 2 short-barreled shotguns, 2 homemade sawed-off shotguns. Sold 2 of them, made $500. They then launched a full-scale operation, surveilling him, And when his son was hiking through his own property with his dog found two men in ghillie suits, sniper attire. And first they shot the dog. Then they shot the boy because the boy saw two unmarked, unannounced, unwanted, unwarranted, trespassing individuals that were in camouflage and armed on his property, just shot his dog, returned fire on his own property, and was shot and killed. And then when his dad investigated to find out what was going on, mom came to the door holding a small child who they decided was also a threat and shot the kid in the head and her in the heart. And then they proceeded to lay siege on that property until that gentleman gave up for $500 in 2 sawed-off shotguns. And they see that as a successful operation. 3 people killed, several federal laws, mandates, ordinances broken, horrible morality. Oh well, I guess that's here's to Ruby Ridge. I guess it was the ATF that also did Waco too. Was it also the ATF or was that the FBI? I think the ATF was involved because they were stockpiling weapons. However, I think the FBI was involved because possible kidnapping. That's always going to happen. When you got a compound with a guy with a god complex leading a bunch of people, there's young women around. I mean, something's going to get stuck somewhere that it's not supposed to. But does that give the federal government the right to burn everybody in the compound alive? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's an overstep. You might want to rethink that strategy. And then, what else? DHS is just a pain in the ass. NSA is just a pain in the ass. They don't really do anything. They're the nerds that watch everybody, the creepers that watch everybody. They don't really do anything. They're just watching and talking to people. I'm sure they do stuff. I'm sure they're pretty bad. But the main 2 or 3 that I have a problem with, first would be the CIA, second would be the FBI, third would be the ATF. But DARPA is also fucking evil. But they're the science nerds of the bunch. Like, they're talking about teleportation and remote viewing and all that sort of weirdness. I mean, they do some good stuff. Like, I mean, we wouldn't have some of the technology we have now, enjoying, cell phones and stuff, had it not been for, like, DARPA's initiatives. You done walking around there, bud? Can you hear the tippy tappies? What else is a bad group? Never heard good things about the CIA. That's because the CIA was founded by Allen Dulles and friends, who include Prescott Bush, all members of the Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale University, that their leading belief is in a plutocracy, meaning the world should be ruled by the wealthy. Those people, who all went to Yale, all were in that fraternity. So was DeSantis was in that fraternity as well. So I am undecided about that gentleman. I don't trust anybody in politics, really. I feel like J.D. Vance also has like ties to that. I don't know. I don't know much about J.D. Vance, which is bothering me. He never really came up. John Kerry too, yeah. But freaking fly, man. There is one big old horsefly that's just like buzzing around here. When was it founded? It was founded Well, MK Ultra was 1953. CIA was founded in September 18th, 1947, after the National Security Act. So basically, in response to Pearl Harbor, because had they had a clandestine operation going in Japan at the time, they would have known of the impending attack. Weird, because we knew about the attack. Why do you think all of the biggest fleets were not docked at Pearl Harbor on that day? Tartaria, as far as I can tell, was a thing. There's a lot of evidence to support that the nation or whatever of Tartaria existed. However, our history, or our written history, has been so, oh, thank you, whitewashed and fabricated that it's difficult to figure out exactly what happened before the 1800s. Because, of course, in the 1800s, there were more people printing newspapers, there were more people writing, there were more people distributing books and news articles and newspapers and encyclopedias, all that kind of stuff. And then before then, it's really a mystery. Pretty much the Germanic Empire is the extent of our knowledge of history. But Tartaria would have been much, 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 much earlier than that. My whole theory on that kind of thing is that every so often, or every few thousand or hundreds of thousands of years, I don't know, tens of thousands of years, I don't know how many years, but every so often, human technology gets to a certain point of advancement. The human population gets to a certain large number. We think we know stuff about stuff. And then there's a cataclysmic event, either a polar shift, a meteor strike, or maybe a super volcano, maybe a combination of all of them happens, wipes out most of humanity, and then a small portion of humanity is left to put the pieces back together. And when you think about that, yeah, we're all kind of smart. We all kind of know stuff. But if all the lights went out and all the smart people were dead, it was just you and your bros, how long before you could make a telephone call? How long before you could send an email? Anybody know how any of this stuff works? No. It's just the dumb guys that were strong enough to survive that cataclysmic event and then had enough knowledge of survival to survive the few years after that to start regrowing or reestablishing society. And then they got to figure everything out again. And apparently that takes 2,000 years. Because we went from drawing stick figures on a cave wall to aquifers and massive city walls and philosophy and working on algebra and trigonometry and figuring mapping the cosmos out. And then you get guys like Galileo and everybody. Well, was it Galileo that thought that rocks fell down instead of up because they loved the ground? Smart people can be dumb too. But I think that happens every few 100,000, tens of thousands of years, and then we start over, and then we get to a certain point, and then it starts over again. Basically a simulation. It's a program. My other thought is that human beings, although descendant from ancient aliens probably, and apes, and whatever, beings, were not meant to be surface dwellers. I don't think that human beings were meant to be surface dwellers. Because when you think about it, everything is dangerous to us. A human baby is worthless against the elements for years, unlike most other mammals that are on the earth. Most animals come out running and fighting. Human babies are just like, I can't do nothing for like 10 years. And even then, I'm real dumb. And then, it would like, too much sun hurts us. Not enough sun hurts us. Too much water hurts us. Not enough water hurts us. Too cold hurts us. Too hot hurts us. We got to be right in the middle. And what is the temperature in most places in caves and caverns and underground? It's pretty tepid, pretty comfortable temperature. Water's pretty pure down there. I think that humans were initially bred as some sort of worker slave race meant to mine underground ore for ancient aliens, such as gold. Does that make sense? Woo! Somebody give me a hat. Yeah, the Hopi people actually have a legend about the ant people. The Hopi originally, I don't know if they all, but the Hopi people were a Native American tribe that settled around the Grand Canyon and in the caverns of the Grand Canyon and that area of the United States, probably Mexico too. But they have a legend that there was a massive flood, just like every other culture. And they say that they say it's their ant friends, but in their language, it could be like translated to ant people or Anunnaki. Sounds like the word sounds like Anunnaki. Somebody just said they call the Greys ant people. Negative. The Greys are most likely humans from the distant future that have evolved to look like that and are time traveling back to us. Those are most likely the crafts that we saw or that crashed in 1947 and the surrounding dates. It's interesting that the Roswell accident or crash or whatever you want to call it happened right when they started implementing the new radar technology, which implemented the use of electromagnetic frequency to track aircraft. And right when we start turning that shit on, these fucking things just start falling out of the sky. And we're like, where did they come from? It started messing with their instruments and whatever. We do know, or at least we think we know, that in the Roswell thing, all of the pilots were killed. In another one, a pilot survived and they were able to keep it alive for a period of time and establish at least a dialogue or communication with probably the distant future, which was the Greys. But then you also have the Little Greens. The Little Greens, if this is all true, I just like the stories. I don't know any of this to be factual. I like the story. The Greens are jerks. They're the little green men that we are always talking about. You know, they have their long fingers, like ET looking things, and they're the ones that abduct people because they are a very inquisitive. Is that the right word? Yeah. They are a very inquisitive race of extraterrestrial that are technologically more advanced than humans, but still not the top of the food chain. And then they're just dicks. They mess with people. They're inquisitive, so they abduct some people. They do some experiments. Like, what if we, like, probably like the experiments in Mars Attacks. Like, what happens if we put this lady's head on her chihuahua and put her chihuahua's head on her body, and then we can have like a race or something. And then they switch them back. And then they also probably do the. Thank you. They probably also do the crop circles just to mess with people. It's like, I drew a dick in the trash and he's all worried about it. Like, they're just a mischievous, inquisitive race of extraterrestrial. I think Maybe. I think it's fun. If you don't think it's fun, come up with your own theory. But then you also have the Draconians. The Draconians are the infamous lizard people. They're a race of beings from the inner earth that are shapeshifters, but also lizards, and also come from Antarctica. But lizards, see, this doesn't make sense, because if they are coming from Antarctica and they are lizard people, lizards are cold-blooded. Wouldn't they want to come from somewhere like, like Arizona or West Texas or something, like somewhere hot? Like, I feel like they would come out of like whatever portal and just be like, ooh, it's chilly. But also Admiral Byrd says that once you get past the ice wall, about 10 miles in, there's a paradise with all sorts of craziness. And then you have Valiant Thor, who, I mean, that's not verifiable by any scrupulous means. There's just a picture of a guy that was not usually at a meeting, that was at a meeting, and they say his name is Valiant Thor and he's from a different planet. I don't know. And then you have the whole Anunnaki thing, which the Anunnaki are probably, like, if you watch, what is it, Jupiter Rising or Jupiter, whatever, that Mila Kunis movie, where she's Jupiter Ascending? I don't know. Whatever that's called. It's Jupiter something. Her name's Jupiter. She's a princess. She's like mostly Anunnaki or whatever. That race of aliens that's like the top of the food chain, the ones that live forever, the ones that have all of the wealth. That would probably be the closest thing you're going to see to the Anunnaki, as Bashar would call them, the Anunnaki. Nope, you humans want to be in our battles. Just know we were kind. Okay. Magic Mike was in it. Yeah, he was. He was a dog man. He wanted to get a bone. So, if all of these races of extraterrestrials and otherworldly beings are true, and the Anunnaki created this world or universe as a way, kind of like Rick and Morty, his battery, like he created a universe inside of his battery that they just pump and create power for his thing. What if they created this whole thing that we are living in to mine gold for their technological purposes? And then they had all their wars with Etho or whatever their names were, Nimrod and all those. Like, I can't keep those names straight. What if they did all of that and then they just like went away for a while? They're like, screw it. We're good for a while. Let's build another one somewhere and see how that one works out, and just let this one go. The simulation will keep going, and it'll just keep resetting every like 10,000 years, and it'll just keep doing that, and they'll just be in a constant state of running around trying to catch their own tails. And like all the other more technological, higher ascended beings that can use their brains for telepathy and be invisible and shapeshift and all that can go fuck with them, and they'll never know what's going on, and it'll just be like fun to watch, kind of like the episode of South Park where Earth is a reality show, which also Earth could be a reality show. Case in point, the Black Knight satellite. In like 1919 or 1920, some early 1900s time. I don't remember, but I believe it was Nikola Tesla that sent a transmission out and received a transmission back, or at least the radio frequency bounced back from this object orbiting the Earth. Should not orbit our Earth. It should gradually fall through our atmosphere and crash, but it's not even a aerodynamic craft at all, or object. It's just an object, kind of like if an alien was looking at our satellites. Well, like, what the heck is that? It looks like a hunk of junk out there. Yeah, well, that's what this Black Knight satellite looks like, and it literally is a object that we don't know what it is that is constantly orbiting the Earth. When we move something close to it, it moves itself farther away from like the satellite, the craft, the space station, whatever it is. It moves itself away from that, and it is transmitting some sort of signal somewhere to someone about something. I think it's very possible that Earth is indeed a reality show for the Galactic Alliance. Anybody else with me on that one? Somebody just goes, Truman Show. Oh man, I think it's, I can't remember, but there is a city in Utah. NASA. This Brian Garage says NASA equals never a straight answer. I rebuttal with not a space agency. Saturn and the moon connection. Saturn is also known as the yellow cube, which could contain the reset button or the off switch for the simulation. I don't know how. I don't know why, but that's a theory. Ready Player One, there is an Easter egg alluding to that at the very end when he's explaining as a hologram, like the main, the genius guy's explaining after his death post-mortem as a hologram the secrets of the universe, and behind him on his wall is Saturn, and that's where is it the reset button? Was it a reset on the wall, or one extra life or something like that in the movie that he presses and then he gets to do the thing, and the movie keeps going and then the hero wins? Oh, Utah, Truman Show. I just recently saw two separate videos of people claiming they had just been through, I think it was like Bluff City in Utah. They had been traveling by car through this town, stopped in this town for gas, went in, and because the card reader wasn't working, and the lady at the register said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to work this machine. It's my first day. Then they went and picked up something at like another convenience store. Same thing. I'm sorry, this machine's not working. I don't know how to fix it. It's my first day. Then they go to the restaurant that is in town, like a little diner, and there's nobody really there, and everybody's just kind of looking at them as if like, who are these new people that we have not seen before, which happens in small towns. But they tried to pay, and there was a problem with the payment method, and that girl also said, I'm sorry, this is my first day. I don't know how to work this machine. So either that is the go-to excuse for being incompetent in that town, or all three of those businesses hired young women on the exact same day without training them, which seems highly unlikely. What I think is possible. Oh, and the second person that knew of this town or was talking about this specific town in Utah, I think it was Bluff City. They were driving through and saw a young woman hitchhiking. They kept driving, and 30 miles down the road, they saw at the very next town, like I guess towns were 30 miles apart, they saw the same exact woman hitchhiking. So either it's a glitch in the matrix or it's a fake town, which maybe I'm just more susceptible to it because of the Umbrella Academy. I just watched that last 4th season, and they have a town of whatever in Maine that was a fake town to hide somebody. I don't put it above the above some sort of shadow government agency or even a government agency to spend the necessary funds to employ an entire town to hide somebody or something. Most likely something like the Montauk Project. Or actually, Stranger Things things would have gone much smoother for that company or organization had the town not been there. Because the town really screwed up their plans. Hawkins, that's what it was. Hawkins, Indiana. Having Hawkins so close by to their facility and operations really put a damper on their whole agenda. So why not get everybody that you need to make this facility or operation work and house them in a pop-up or fake town, and just do, like, by day I'm Nancy and I run the greenhouse and I make all the I water the plants and I weed the weeds, and at night I'm a physicist that creates nuclear weapons, like, or like does experiments on reptilian mutations and stuff. I don't put that above any, like, that you've got everybody you need. Go, like, during the day, make the town work, and then, like, at night, get up to no good. That's what we all do anyway. And not LAX. You're thinking of the Denver airport. You say that sort of applies to underneath LAX. LAX would be not a bad choice. There's the San Andreas fault line that goes very close to that, so that's probably not a good place to do anything underground. Don't tell the cartels that. But Denver airport, Denver, known as the Mile High City because of its elevation, the airport was at the beginning one of the most expensive endeavors for an airport ever, and then came out like what, triple or quadruple what their budget was, or original plan budget, and it was so far behind the construction schedule. And there's a blue stallion out front, which has all sorts of occultic symbolism or symbology. And there is a mural that, when I was there in 2020, they had the mural covered, and they had that whole area blocked off, because I really wanted to, like, look at it and see if I could see any, like, itty bitty shenanigans that I could pick out. But I wasn't able to view it. I really wanted to see that mural. But I think what is under that airport would most likely be bunkers in case of a massive calamity, like a nuclear attack, or maybe a super volcano. But a super volcano, if that would probably not be the best place for it, because it's pretty much like next door to Yellowstone. It's the biggest super volcano that's, like, about to blow. Oh, and on a side note, talking about Yellowstone, that's about to go. I'm pretty sure it's overdue to erupt. Not like I know anything about anything, but like things I've read. Seismic activity. Old Faithful is no longer faithful. It used to go on the hour every hour. Now it goes like it was like every hour and 10 minutes. Then it's like an hour and 25. Then it's like an hour and 2 hours. It goes, it blows the geyser. But that's indicative of tectonic plates shifting, which happens before an eruption. Typically. Oh, somebody else sent me something. It was Old Faithful. Now it's not so faithful. It's like my ex-wife. Now, I'm not trying to scare people with saying that there's going to be a massive super volcano eruption, because there's no reason to be scared of it, because if it happens, we're all in the same boat. Well, West Coast is going to die a lot quicker than the East Coast, but we're still going to die. It's going to be slower, if you're into that sort of thing. Should I talk about? I've talked about aliens. I've talked about stuff. Jersey has been quaking. Yes, but I already covered that at the very beginning if you were in the class at the moment. But that could be caused by some form of time travel. Just saying. I don't really know the ins and outs of that one. Have you seen the sun activity lately? Yeah, the sun flares are pretty ridiculous. Like, what was it? It was late June, early July, where they're like, hey, solar flares, your cell phones probably aren't going to work, and we're probably not, It's not going to be good if stuff happens. Like that's what they're saying. Like they're like, you don't need to worry about it. It might glitch your cell phone out a little bit, but we all could probably die. Like that's what I was getting from the news. They're like, the worst solar flare since we've ever seen, because we haven't always been able to measure solar flares, and now that we can measure solar flares, I'm kind of scared. Like that's how all the what are they called, news media sounded to me. None of them sounded encouraging. It could be nothing, but it could knock all of our satellites out of the sky, and we don't, and like the grid goes down and we all die. It could be nothing though. It's probably nothing, but we could all die. That's what I get every time I turn on any news. Hey guys, this thing's happening. It's probably nothing, but we could all die. I don't remember exactly when they started talking about lockdowns, but I think the date was March 13th. I was at a pawn shop in Sanford, Florida, haggling over the price of a knockoff 3/4 scale Gibson guitar. And I just caught a brief bit of what was on CNN, because I really don't like watching any mainstream media. And they're like, they're preparing for, they're saying that New Yorkers should prepare to go on full scale curfew and lockdown and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, good luck. Like, I thought it was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Even the idea that New Yorkers would let a cold slow them down. Nothing slows down New York. They get hit with a flood, rats the size of Dobermans, like, and they still got to get to work. They still got to get to the office. They still got to drive their cab. Like I've never seen New York pussy out the way it did. As soon as New York fell, I knew we were all fucked. And then March 17th was when Disney shut down and everybody in Orlando pooped their Pampers. And then we all freaked out for about 3 or 4 days. 2 weeks. It was 14 days. It was 14 days that we were all like kind of on edge, not knowing what was going on. I'm watching the naval fleet tracker, trying to figure out where our Navy fleets are, because we're arming or fortifying Baltimore, Seattle, and New York, the major ports of entry into our country. And I'm seeing APCs and tanks and whatnot going to Jacksonville, Florida, and going down 95 to Miami to fortify that major port of entry into our country. So I'm like, we're gonna get attacked, and like I was like trying to make booby traps in my apartment, like put like cans on a string as like a little alarm, and I'm like, if something happens, I can always move my dresser in front of the glass screen door or the glass sliding door, and then I can put the couch down there and I can shoot over that, and like I got it all covered. Ridiculous. But I thought we were going to get attacked. And then we all, in Florida anyway, we shut down. And then May 9th, I think it was the first week of May, I had Fridays off at the time. And before lockdown, my Friday ritual was to go to the local IHOP, because that was the closest thing that was like a diner to where I was. And I walked up to the door the first day that the mandate's not in effect anymore. And the lady who was my regular waitress, regular server, she's standing at the door and she goes, "Oh, honey, you got to put a mask on to come in." And I look at her and I go, "So I need a mask right here, but I don't need a mask right there." And she goes, "You're right. Just come on in. It's stupid." And I'm like, okay. And then what was the other place? I can't remember. There was like, I remember that I got kicked out of, the only place I got kicked out of was a tobacco shop in Florida for not wearing a mask. I went to the tobacco shop I always go to get the good stuff. I pack my own cigarettes. And I walk in, just normal, just like I am now. And the guy's like, hey buddy, you gotta put a mask on to come in here. And I'm like, okay, can I get some? And he's like, no, you gotta have an actual mask. And I'm like, why? I'm coming in here to get a substance that's going to eventually kill me by destroying my lungs, and you want to save me from a cold. Like, you're literally the merchant of death in this situation, and you're telling me to wear a mask. And he's like, you gotta go. And I'm like, screw you. I'm never coming back here. And I did not return to that establishment. I found a different tobacco shop. But that was the only, as I recall, the only issue I had in Florida. I remember the second week of May, I went to an establishment in Daytona that is quite grand. And all they did was they took your temperature on your forehead, but the bouncer, he wasn't even looking at it. And so people were coming in. He was trying to figure out, like he was doing his thing, whether they had, that they had their IDs and stuff. And he would just be like, okay. It was kind of like that scene in Idiocracy, like, welcome to Costco. I love you. Starbucks. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You like money and hand jobs? Let's be friends. Has anybody seen the movie Idiocracy? Because if not, that's going to sound ridiculous. In the future, 500 years into the future, Starbucks is now a brothel that sells lattes. Dude, I do think we are... if Dwayne Johnson were to run for president, that would be as close as President Macho Camacho Mountain Dew. What's his last name? Macho Camacho Mountain Dew. Like a Mexican name, but it's Terry Crews. It's Terry Crews, and he has like a Spanish name. And it cracks me up. I love Terry Crews in that movie. I think that's probably very close to what we're headed towards. They just got dumber. Because their science holds water. Like, if only the stupid people breed and we protect the stupid people from letting nature take its course and Darwinism just working itself out, we're eventually just going to be a world full of dumb shits. Thank you. Somebody just said Wall-E. By show of hands, who wants me to talk about the Pixar conspiracy? This was put together, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of stuff, by a guy that is much, much smarter than I am. Okay, so we've got at least 4, 5, 6 people that talk about the Pixar conspiracy. So all Pixar movies take place in the same universe, but it also incorporates time travel. So I'm in. Let's start with Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is about these, let's call them aliens, monsters, that are harvesting screams, emotions, from children by way of using a portal from their dimension or time to another dimension or time where they are unknown, and it's easier for them to harvest this emotion. Because when you get to the end of the movie, you find out that it doesn't have to be a scream. It can be a giggle. It just needs to be a genuine human emotion. So, Monsters, Inc. Sully messes up, and the little girl follows him through the portal. She's about, 4 years old at the time? And then they send her back, and everything's supposed to go back to normal. But she still has this memory of going through a portal to a different either time or dimension where her friend Sully was. It's probably a fading memory or what have you, but it's still there, and it drives her nuts her entire life. She dedicates her life to figuring out the science, the physics, the quantum mechanics behind this portal and eventually is able to make one. But instead of going into the distant future or into a different dimension filled with these beings, she accidentally goes back in time and is unable to recreate the portal to go back to her original time and becomes the old woman in Brave. Because if you look at that old woman in Brave, she is a mystic, a witch, whatever. But everything she does, there's scientific reasoning behind it, or at least some sort of explanation for the things that she does. And there is a carving of Sully in the old woman's home, along with the Pizza Planet truck. How would a woman, years and years into history, back in history, even have the idea to carve such things had she not seen such things with her own eyes? So you've got this time traveler that goes back in time, gets stuck. You've got Brave, and then you move forward in time. Toy Story. The toys are artificial intelligence that hide their intelligence and hide their ability to be sentient beings when humans are around, probably to gain some sort of power from them, like their life force of some kind. Then AI gradually becomes more and more self-aware and more powerful until the point that there's like a Terminator Skynet event and the Earth is destroyed or somehow becomes uninhabitable. So they move these humans from which they derive their life force from or energy from into this off-world space station in WALL-E. And they're just these fat blobs that hover around in these recliner type chairs and just eat and poop and drink, and all their function is to provide whatever that life force or energy is that is needed for the machines to survive or become power or whatever. And while that is going on, the Earth is slowly becoming it's repairing itself. It's becoming re-inhabitable, or insects are now the highest form or highest intelligent life form on the planet. And so we have the Ants movie, or is it Bugs Life? Bugs Life, not Ants. Ants is the shitty Jerry Seinfeld one, right? Ants is the bad one. Ants is dumb. Bugs Life is what I meant. And then as the Earth slowly repairs itself, WALL-E is infatuated with this old form of human life, and then the whole movie takes place, and they go down, and they the last scene or whatever in WALL-E is that sprouting up, and you're like, oh, it looks like the bees. That's what it was. The bee movie is the Jerry Seinfeld one. Ants is still shitty. I don't like it. Yeah, I got them all mixed up. I mean, there's only so many insect movies. Besides, the best insect movie would be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That would be the only insect movie that I gave a shit about, with an ant in it and a bumblebee. I like that movie. I think you could probably make a person smaller, like the molecular structure of a person, make them itty bitty. There's a lot of movies that support that. What was the movie with Martin Short? It was like an 80s movie where, was it like Inside Me or something like that? Where the scientists made a guy, put him in a capsule, made him itty bitty, like microscopic, and then put him into a syringe, and they were going to put him into a bunny, and then they accidentally somehow had something happen, and then it got injected into Martin Short, and then the guy was inside of Martin Short, and then he could see through his ocular nerve, and he's like, oh, my eye, when he shot it into his ocular nerve, and he's like, this being is much larger than a bunny rabbit. And then he went into his ear canal, and he put a microphone, and he's like, hey, you! And he's like, oh, no, I'm crazy. What was that movie called? Stuff like Squarespace. Yes. Indian in the Cupboard was one of my favorite freaking movies as a kid. Now I can't remember a lot of it, but I remember my neighbor, we made his parents get us gerbils, or not gerbils, hamsters with hamster balls, and we were gonna make Tube City around his house. It was pretty cool. And then we kept trying. He actually had, like, didn't they have like a promotional thing at like Burger King or McDonald's with like Happy Meals or special toys? That was Indian in the Cupboard, and you could actually buy the cupboard and put the different toys in the cupboard. That was a good movie. That was a good time in American history. They kicked that poor thing down down the stairs. Do we ever see that thing again after they kick it down the stairs? I'm pretty sure that little hamster wouldn't survive that, because even though it's a ball and it like spins, it's still like an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So if the ball hits something, the hamster's gonna hit the ball too. Pretty sure it died. Back to the Future is one movie. It is not three. It is one movie in 3 parts. It is the perfect trilogy. Flight of the Navigator, I need to watch again because I feel like that correlates with my timeline somehow. Flight of the Navigator was way before its time. That was a great movie. It's not streaming anywhere. I think it's on YouTube, but you have to pay like $8.99 to watch it. I'm not paying $8.99 to watch anything. It's about a boy that gets abducted by an alien, taken to the alien's place for like, what, 10 years or something? And then they do a whole bunch of like brain scans and stuff, and they implant information in his head as like an experiment. And then the ship is AI, and it takes him home, but then it gets messed up when they get back to Earth, and the kid has not aged, but it has been 10 years since he left, and everybody's like, oh, what's going on? And the alien ship thing is like, hey, my navigation stuff is all messed up. And then the kid is like, well, I don't know how, but I know where your planet is. And he's like, good, because I'm lost. How about you get in here and hook your brain into my brain, and we can do stuff. And then the kid does that, and then the government's like, no, we don't want any stuff that we don't control happening. And then his brother's like, hey, won't I ever see you again? And he's like, yeah, I just got to take this alien home, and then they're going to bring me back. And then he brings him back, and he's like, oh, no, the government's at my house waiting for me. He looks at his brother, he's like, okay, deuces, I'm going to go be an alien. At least I think that's how it's at. Nope, he wakes up, and they Dallased him. They Dallased him. It was all a dream. Never happened. I hate that. Dallas ruined everything because they provided the perfect cop-out when you don't have an ending for a story. I have a lot of opinions. The one I like, though, is Maximum Overdrive. I love that a soda machine could theoretically take out an entire Little League baseball team. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that TikTok. It's a picture of Donald Trump hugging a frail old man, and he autographed it and said, to Nick, love Donald J. Trump. Is that what you're referring to? Because that man's facial features do resemble that of Nikola Tesla's. The nose, the chin, the cheeks, but the balding pattern, the angular facial structure, it does. There could be an argument that it is in fact him, but I don't think it is. Like, it's just because somebody looks like somebody else doesn't mean that it's that person. Like, the simulation only has so many facial templates, and it's gonna repeat every once in a while. JFK Sr., I don't know. There's a lot of deep fakes out there, man. We live in the deep fake era, and everybody's like, I did see JFK Jr. at the rally. No, you didn't. I did see Sasquatch up on the water tower. Sasquatch was second shooter, according to, who was it? Was it Ted Cruz that said that? No, it wasn't Ted Cruz. whatever his stupid name is, has a stupid southern accent. Was it a murder hornet? That's my favorite video that didn't get any views, is that where he's talking to the Secret Service guy, or no, he's talking to the FBI guy in charge of the investigation. John Kennedy. Yeah, it was Senator John Kennedy. And he's like, was it indeed a bullet that shot President Trump in the ear? Yeah, that's, I didn't think there was any question about that, sir. He's like, so it wasn't a space laser? No. So it wasn't a murder hornet? No, sir, it was a bullet. It wasn't Sasquatch. It was Matthew Thomas Crooks. Yeah, that's what we've been saying for a few weeks now. It's the guy that we shot in the face. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Sasquatch. Everybody knows that Sasquatch are pacifists anyway. They're herbivores. They don't like guns, as Harry and the Henderson taught us. Harry really didn't like guns. He broke all the guns. Sasquatch keeps to themselves. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily believe in a Sasquatch or cryptid of that North American ape thing of that sort, but it could be a form of Nephilim. They seem pretty adept to hiding in caves in the wilderness. At 7%. Hold on. I'm gonna have to undo this mic and plug in the plug to the actual phone. Hold on. Let's see if this works. Ready? Break.
It's better now? God damn it. I've been talking for 2 hours. I asked if it was clear, if it was muffled, if it was loud, if it was quiet, and everybody's like, no, you're good. And then I undo it after 2 hours of talking, and you're like, oh, it's way better without that hunk of junk that was draining your battery. Well, you live, you learn, and then you get loves. It was good, it's just better now. It was just fine, it's just bad. I prefer it the better way. Yeah, the Grand Canyon, I would like to explore the Grand Canyon, like the off-limits zones, because they can't patrol the whole thing. Yeah, they do have satellites and drones and shit, but they don't have enough people to, like, stop us. Like, just go after, like, a couple guys with, like, some Nature Valley bars and a bottle of water, like, trying to find some caves with some Egyptian shit in it. Like, they're not gonna waste time on that. They're gonna let like, the elements take care of us, but little do they know, I can do stuff. Yeah, I'd like to explore the Grand Canyon, is what I'm saying. From the Hopi legends to what the explorers found to... They gated off certain caverns with, like, wrought iron bars so people can't get into them. Like, how is that good for the ecosystem? Like, that's not shady at all. And then they're gonna say, like, it's dangerous. Well, like, it's a freaking cliff. It's a canyon with very steep sides that you can fall down, and you let people walk right up to that. Why can't I go in the cave that's been there for millennia, and it's still hasn't caved in yet, but as soon as I walk in, it's gonna cave in? Go fuck yourself. What I am more interested in, and will never be able to get an answer to, is what is in the Hoover Dam. What's going on? What's the deal with the Hoover Dam? I got you that time, you little shit. I'll find your body. I'll deliver your carcass to your mother. Say your son's a prick. Okay, sorry. I had to get gangster on the fly. It could be housing the Tesseract, because they definitely used a lot of cement, and they're not even using. No, maybe I think I'm mixing up stuff. I'm thinking of Mount Rushmore. When they created Mount Rushmore with the friggin' mountain with heads on it for no apparent reason, they also made what was intended to be a museum in one of the heads, in the side of one of the heads. And then they don't... something's in there, but they won't let us know what it is. It's inside of, like, Roosevelt's head or something. Oh, you back for more, are you? You brought your friends, too! Don't worry, I got enough lead for all of you. I need one of them salt guns. You know, that salt gun for flies? It's an assault weapon. And then bug assault, there you go. I had one, it broke. It wasn't of high quality. Yeah. I drained my battery so low that now that I unplugged the shitty microphone, it's still not working it's going down from 6%. I'm probably gonna have to take a break for a little bit and